more than likely your friends and peers are not having the same, they're not going through the same things and they just don't understand. I've said that about me, that for the longest time, I have a few friends my age who are kind of starting to have the same situations with their parents. But, I was in my late 30s when I really started helping my mom more with my dad. And so I was the only one, and still sometimes I am sometimes still the only one who is going through this with their parent. Because my mom is going to be 74 this year. So she's 73 and she was diagnosed in 19. So we've been dealing this with for a while. And, it is hard because, my peers just don't always understand. They don't know what it's like. Hi everyone, I'm Lexie Callies. Do you feel the squeeze of caring for an elderly loved one and school-aged children? Then welcome to the Sandwich Stories. Let's dig in. Hi everybody. It's Lexie Callies with Sandwich Stories, and I've got a guest today. This is Melissa Jorgenson with Senior Living Advisors DFW. So we're going to talk about that, but you also work with Alzheimer's Association.
Yes, I do.
So we're going to talk about two things today. So we're going to get all the information from you, but thank you for coming on to the show.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here and to talk with you.
So just give us a little brief of what you do for Senior Living Advisors and then also what you do with Alzheimer's Association.
So with Senior Living Advisors, basically we help families who are going through that hard time of having to move a loved one into a senior living community, whether it be a retirement home, assisted living, memory care, nursing home. I was in senior living for about 20 years. So just a lot of experience in that.
She doesn't look young enough, even close to have done anything for 20 years. You look great.
So just helping families with that, it can be very overwhelming. And, it's a free service, which is great. And we get paid by whatever community they choose. So I just kind of started this journey after leaving the industry about 3 years ago.
So you left the industry before. Did you work for a specific location, or were you kind of doing the same thing in the past?
So I started out, I was a memory care director. My passion is memory care, and then I moved into the executive director role. So I did that.
And that's totally different.
It's a lot.
And was it for the same facility or was it for a different facility?
So that transition was at the same facility that I had a really great mentor. So just kind of worked my way up there, and then just went to kind of open a few communities. So I've worked for a few. A few different. There's a lot of companies out there.
Yes, there's a lot of different companies.
So,
and they seem to be popping up. I feel as if there are companies who are acquiring smaller companies. So they might take one location, like the one company might be small and they might have one location in Dallas, but they've got maybe more in Florida. And so then someone is coming up and buying, we'll take 5 of your, they're acquiring. And I found that to be with one of my mom's facilities, 2 facilities ago. So, that was a change. And when a company comes in and acquires it or changes, it's always, everything gets thrown up in the air and you don't know what's right side up anymore.
It's
hard. So I can understand changing roles and opening a couple facilities. That's not easy to do.
It's not. And I think it's great that families have more options, but it's also overwhelming because you have so many options. So it's,
So when you were helping with your position now with senior advisors, are you mainly focusing on helping families who are looking for memory care since you've had that background?
Just kind of all of it.
All of it? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think, of course, that's, I think memory care it's all challenging, but there's kind of that stigma to it a little bit. So just being able to educate families and that can be very helpful
Yeah,
during
I
that
think
whole
so too.
process.
Because maybe you don't know if your family member needs memory care
Yeah.
or just assisted living.
Yeah.
Or maybe we start in assisted living and see how things go. And you
Yeah.
might have to move to memory care later.
Yeah. Or just there's residential care homes now. And
Mhm.
so they have a lot of different options to
Yeah.
choose from.
Yeah.
So kind of helping them through that process and, you know,
And cost always is a factor too.
it's
It's a huge factor.
It's not getting any cheaper.
No, it is not. It is not going to get any cheaper.
Yeah.
So you do that on a regular basis, but
Yes.
you're also working for Alzheimer's Association.
So I volunteer with the Alzheimer's
Okay.
Association. I started volunteering with them many years ago when
Yes.
I was in college. I actually interned with them
Okay.
my senior year. And so I was able to just see all the different things that they offer.
And what do they offer? Because I feel we kind of had a chit chat
Mhm.
before this, but I feel like a lot of people don't really understand what Alzheimer's Association really offers the public.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's a nonprofit organization. They help educate, they help provide support for
Okay.
caregivers, you know, with Alzheimer's disease, but also all other types of dementias. So
Yes.
it's not just Alzheimer's disease.
No.
So they do educational seminars. I've attended so many over the years, and I still go to them, and I learn something new every time.
Well, I feel that the science and the care is constantly changing.
It is.
With Alzheimer's and dementia. And like you said, there are so many different kinds. It's like, I always say Alzheimer's and dementia is like a big umbrella.
Yeah.
And then you have your subsets under the umbrella. Yeah. And depending on what kind you have kind of determines your percentage of where you sit under the large umbrella.
Yeah.
So you could have something that's more common, and that's obviously going to get more research and things looked at versus I've said this before on my show that my dad had frontal temporal dementia, and with under the umbrella, it's a really small percentage of those who have that. So we always said, even his neurologists were like, well, it's kind of the orphan disease of Alzheimer's and dementia, because really when my dad was diagnosed, 2 to 3% of patients under that umbrella had what my dad had.
Yeah.
And it's gotten a little more, but not much more than 5%. It's really small.
Yeah.
So it's still kind of the orphan disease within.
Yeah.
And no one really knows, like, is it, you know, and it's all a guessing game in a lot of ways. I mean, they are pinpointing more, but it is still a guessing game as cause and care and how to possibly prevent. You know, there's always something. So Alzheimer's Association provides support,
education, advocacy. They do research. They do trials for new medications.
That's great.
So it's so much. And I think, you know, the big piece going through it with my family, you know, just that support for caregivers is so essential because a lot of times they feel isolated, they feel alone.
Yes.
And so just to be around people that are going through what you're going through or have been, you know, whatever your issue is for that week, you know, if it's getting mom or dad into the shower or whatever, you know, somebody has probably gone through it before. Right. And so this is what we did. And so it helps so much. So I've been a support group facilitator for a while.
Okay.
And that's what I do now. So I, you know, and then I'll go to health fairs if they need that and just, you know, talk with families.
And are there different support groups according to what your family member might need, or is it just kind of an all-encompassing support group?
It is. I mean, I've done some support groups where it's more education based. So we'll talk about a topic, something that they might, you know, be interested in. So, and we can bring in experts that can talk. Or it's just, you know, how's your week going? Yeah. You know, it's, we also they do an early dementia support group. And so it's the person living with dementia as well as the caregiver.
Okay.
And so I am just now becoming a part of this.
Okay.
But I think it's something that is needed.
Yeah, because I think, so when you're working with these families who have early onset Alzheimer's or dementia, how young are you talking about when you when you have people come in and
I mean, in the 50s,
wow.
it's young.
Yeah, that's young.
It's really young. And so this support group, they call it semesters.
Okay.
So they meet twice a month. It's for 2 hours each time.
Okay.
So the first hour, it's the caregiver and the person living with dementia,
Okay.
and they'll do an activity or it's some type of education for them.
Okay.
And then the last hour, they break out. So the caregivers will go to one section, and the people living with dementia go to another. And so, yeah, they both, I was able to sit in on the portion of the people living with dementia. And it was so great for them to be able to come together and just talk about what they're going through.
Right.
You know, they're having to give up driving and just losing that independence and not able to work anymore and just feeling hopeless. And so it's such a great thing that they're doing. Just,
yeah, I think getting the word out.
Yeah.
Do they help? Obviously, people have already had the diagnosis, so they're coming to you because of that.
Yeah.
But is that something that the group is trying to do? Is get educate more people in the public as to maybe hear signs of or what to maybe look for possible early onset Alzheimer's, because then maybe you could get just like with Parkinson's, if you can get in with a neurologist earlier, there might be other preventions or things to put in place to maybe help stave off some of the symptoms.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
I think they're trying to, just bring awareness to that. I think people are afraid, if you do, and they try to hide it. So a lot of times you'll have a spouse that's kind of hiding it.
Yeah.
So that happens a lot. So I think just get the sooner you can get in and get that diagnosis, the better, because there are, there's no cure, but there are some medications that can help. And again, they're doing these test trials that they could possibly be a part of. So
yeah, and I think having a large forgive me, I don't remember if Alzheimer's Association, is it worldwide or is it just national?
I think it's just national.
Okay, so but to have this national well-known organization and nonprofit be able to help fund trials, I think is really important. That's I really want people to realize that don't be afraid of a trial.
Yeah.
Good things and disappointing things can come out of trials. And I think people might be a little afraid of it because they don't want to be disappointed.
Yeah.
But you never know what can come out of it. It could be a game changer for you. It could be the game changer for someone down the road. Because maybe it didn't work for you, but they're going to say, oh, it didn't work for this, but this is what we're seeing that we need to change. And we can try it again. And
you never know.
Yeah. So, I mean, and so it's not just walks. Everyone knows the Alzheimer's walk.
Like I said, the education seminars that they do are they're so informative, and they host them. If you just go to the website, it's alz.org.
Okay.
That kind of will give you all the information about. They also have a helpline. So the helpline.
Oh, yeah. I didn't know that either.
It's 24/7.
Wow.
So you can call literally
anytime
at 3 a.m. You're just really struggling. And they're mastered licensed clinicians.
Okay.
So they are experts in their field. And so I think that's huge.
I would never have known that existed.
Yeah. So when I was at UNT, when I interned there, I actually got to sit in there for a semester, and it was interesting and so great that they provide that, because they would get calls and people in their, really having really hard times, whatever situation they're going through. And so that's a huge resource that I don't think a lot of people know about.
Yeah.
So
no, I would never have known that existed. I see, you learn something new every day, everybody. You never know what you'll find.
It's such a great resource.
But yeah, no, so that's interesting. And then when it comes, when you're working with, since you said this is a new group for you, the early onset.
Yeah.
Do you have others that come? Is it just primarily caregivers and the patient, or do families come in? Because I'm sure if you have someone who's 50 years old, they could easily have 20-year-old, if not younger. Do you ever have families come in to try to help with, because that's a hard thing for young people to go through, to see their parent change, or to know what's going to be happening and changing, because maybe their life trajectory was on one path and this diagnosis could possibly change them to another path, because that changed me. My dad, I really not when I got married. I was already engaged when he was diagnosed. So that was not it. It was when I was going to decide to have children. Because at first I thought I was going to wait longer, but my husband and I moved it up by like 3 years so that I knew I could have a child, but have my dad be around in whatever form. My dad, luckily, when my son was born, he was still, my mom says, trainable. So when my son was born, he would constantly ask, "What's the baby's name?" But we wanted him to learn my son's name. And so my dad, old school, always wore a button-down shirt with a pocket. So my mom put notes in the pocket of his shirt. So every single time he asked, she's like, "Well, what does the note on your shirt say, in your pocket, your shirt pocket say?" So he'd pull it out and it would say, "The baby's name is Shelby." And so then we'd say, "Okay, so what is the baby's name?" "The baby's name is Shelby." And so then he finally could learn it. So he wasn't, so I was lucky to have that. But it was just little things like that I don't know what made my mom think of that or who told her, but I thought it was great.
It is great.
So that he was still, like she said, trainable to be able to know what my son's name was, which I thought was great. So, like I said, I think having that, and my dad was old for his diagnosis. At 63, he was old. Most of the people I know, actually, oddly enough, 2 of our neighbors when I was growing up, one being my best friend's mom, and then her next door neighbor, both had FTD.
Wow.
Which was crazy. We all just lived like around the street from each other.
That's crazy.
But they were really young. My best friend's mom was in her 50s when she was diagnosed with FTD. So it was, so my dad was old. So, but, so I didn't, like I said, I didn't know if you have families that come in with, maybe they have.
I'm sure they do. I know for this support group, so like for the support group I do for caregivers, like you can just show up.
Okay.
So, but for the more, with early onset, that is something you kind of need to go and make sure they're suitable for the group.
Okay.
And then they also limit it. So there's not as many, but it's more manageable.
What size groups do you normally have?
So for this one, there's about 20.
Oh, that's still a good size group.
It's good.
20 patients or 20 total?
20 total.
Okay. So 10 patients and 10 caregivers.
And I'm sure they could take a few more, but probably not more than that.
Yeah.
And I don't know how the demand. I don't know if I'm not sure. I don't handle all that.
Right.
So, but it's not something you kind of have to.
Okay. So it's not
go through the Alzheimer's Association, and they'll make sure that, because at some point, some of the people do get, they're progressing a little bit more, and it's just not the right fit for them.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay. And so, while you're there, how do you help facilitate within these groups?
So for that one, I've just started. Okay. So they'll take a break like in the summer, July, August, and then they'll start up.
Okay.
So I'm really excited. Just being there, it was very, really powerful just to hear them speak about what they're going through. Okay. And I already feel attached to them. So I'm excited. So, and just doing the activities with them, I think it's good for caregivers to have that time. And then for the caregiver support group, it's just really offering, a lot of times they feel lost. it's a scary thing that they're
It is
going
scary.
through. So
Yeah.
just offering support, and
Mhm.
we've just the experiences that we've had, just a lot of times we've been through it, and
Yeah.
we can just offer some advice,
Right.
and let's try this, or
Mhm.
whatever the situation is. But just and listening,
Yeah.
just listening to.
Yeah, being able to have people have a free space
Yeah,
to talk and
yeah,
to, um, just share because it is hard.
it's really
And
hard.
if you're young like that, you're with your spouse,
Hmm.
more than likely your friends and peers are not having the same they're not going through the same things and they
Yeah.
just don't understand. I've said that about me, that for the longest time I have a few friends my age who are kind of starting
Hmm.
to have the same situations with their parents,
Yeah.
but I was in my late 30s
Hmm.
when I really started helping my mom more with my dad. And so I was the only one, and still sometimes I am sometimes still the only one who is going through this with their
Yeah.
parent. Because my mom is going to be 74 this year. So
Okay.
she's 73 and she was diagnosed in 19. So we've been dealing this with for a while.
Yeah.
And it is hard because I you my peers just don't always
Yeah.
understand. They don't know what it's like.
Yeah.
And some of them do.
Yeah.
And we talk about it, and it's nice to have that person who does
Sure.
get it.
Yeah.
So
Because that is young.
it is
I
young.
mean, yeah.
Yeah, she's still young, and but yeah, it's and with hers it's more dementia with she has not been diagnosed with dementia. I have to
Okay.
say that. She because when she's on and
Hmm.
she totally gets it. But for hers it has to do with more of the side effects of Parkinson's.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
that's a whole nother ball
Yeah.
game.
Yeah.
So yeah, so it's I've had both ends where I always say it's like I had my dad who was completely physically still able to walk, do all the things, but just wasn't couldn't speak anymore,
Mm.
those kinds of things. And then whereas my mom, she has more the ability to speak and to get things across, but physically she's
Yeah.
just not there. So I've had both
We've had,
ends.
yeah.
Yeah, so but yeah, I might have to reach out because
It's, watching my mom go through it with my
mhm,
grandmother, and,
mhm,
we didn't have those resources.
right.
And so I wish we did. And I wish
Mhm,
we had
yeah,
that, but
mhm,
it's powerful, and it can help
right.
and help.
Now, did your grandmother live with your mom, or was she in her own?
No, yeah. So that's how I got into this
Mhm.
whole career
Yes,
choice.
yes.
It changed my life.
Mhm,
And my grandmother, we relocated to Texas from
mhm,
Illinois.
mhm.
This is in the 80s, so
Yeah.
it's a long time ago. My dad's job. And
Mhm,
so my family, my extended family, my grandmother, her
mhm.
name was Ida, was in Chicago.
Yeah.
And so we didn't get to see her as often.
Mhm.
We'd see her holidays, summer, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I remember, my mom was starting to get called. My grandmother lived alone. She was a widow,
Mhm.
had great neighbors. And I remember them calling her saying,
Mhm.
like, something's not,
Something's not right.
something's not right. And
Yeah, yeah.
so finally, my uncle went to see my grandmother, and she was cooking
Mhm.
dinner on the radiator.
Oh, yeah.
And so it was like, yeah,
This is not right.
this is not right.
Yeah.
So she came and lived with us. I mean, I was still in elementary school.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I have a sister who's 2 years older.
Mhm.
So we've lived through
Yeah, you've lived
every
through it.
stage of the disease
Mhm.
process, not really knowing. I mean, I didn't know what dementia was. I didn't
Yeah.
know what Alzheimer's disease
Right.
was. I
Yeah.
just know grandma was getting more forgetful, and she was
Yeah.
wearing 6 shirts, just
Yeah.
all the stuff that, that we see. Um, yeah. And, my parents worked full time.
Mhm.
They traveled at times.
Mhm.
My dad was getting his college degrees at night. I mean, it was
Yeah.
just,
It's a lot.
They were in their 40s.
Yeah.
And then you're raising.
So they were sandwiched.
So
also.
I am like, yes.
100%.
So
You're the child of a sandwiched
yes. I was like,
family.
I lived that.
Yeah.
And, but we were so excited to have her living with us.
Yeah.
Like, it was she was that grandmother that was like so fun.
Oh,
and
that's nice.
Just, she was a seamstress. She would sew, make clothes for our cabbage. She was just amazing.
Oh, that's
so
nice.
to have her living with us
Right.
was fun.
Right.
It was like, this is great. But yeah, as the years went on and as we started getting older, I noticed, you notice more. Her short-term memory was not there, but the long-term memory was.
Yeah.
And forgetting when she ate.
Yes.
And
my grandmother did the same thing.
Just the big one for her was she was an elopement risk. So she would she would take off. And so we all became, we were all, my mom was the primary caregiver, but we were all a caregiver in our own ways.
Yeah.
And so once I got to high school, it's, my mom, they were best friends. They were very close.
Yeah.
And I think just, I think we were all in denial. Like, this is, she's going to be able to, we never thought we're going to have to move her.
Yeah.
It's like, no, she's going to stay with us.
She's going to stay with you forever.
We got this. Yeah. We're doing fine.
We're going to rally.
Yeah. But it became a safety issue. Yes. And we had her at a senior center. So my mom would drop her off and then the bus would come to our house.
Yeah.
Well, it worked for a little bit. And then I would come home from school. I think I was a junior. And she wouldn't be home.
Oh no.
So we're like scouring the neighbor. And this is in the 90s. So you don't have
a way to
a cell phone.
Yeah, you can't
I don't have the internet.
Yeah.
She'd be at a neighbor's house. And,
luckily you had understanding neighbors.
Yeah, hopefully. But again, it was still not that awareness.
Yeah.
That it just, it's just like, she's a sweet old lady that,
Yeah.
But one day I came home from school and I could not find her.
Oh no.
And I mean, we had to get a police officer. It was really, really scary.
I'm sure.
Somehow it's like, let's go to the senior center. I keep wanting to say like a daycare, but it was like adult daycare type of place.
Yeah.
I thought, let's just go there and see. And she was a little itty bitty thing. And the bus driver came to our home. She didn't realize that she couldn't recognize that as our home. So she didn't get off the bus and he didn't see her.
Yes. So he
went back to the senior center and she sat on that bus for hours.
How scary.
Yeah, it was, I just remember pulling up and seeing her little head, walking up and down. And I think at that point it was like, this is not right. We can't do this, and, I was about to graduate. I was going to be a senior. My sister was in college. And so we weren't, so that whole experience and then having to place her, move her, it was, it has helped me with families.
Yes.
And with just my career and just because I've been through it.
Thank you so much for listening to Sandwich Stories. I really hope you learned some new things and enjoyed it. If you did, tell a friend, tell your mom, tell your sister, tell your dad, tell everybody you know to also listen. Maybe they'll learn some new things, how to help each other out. And find us at Sandwich Stories Podcast. Thanks so much.